3 months ago, the ABA placed two law schools on probation and warned them they could lose their accreditation entirely. Last month, they let both of them off. Now, the official story is that everything is fine. The law schools fixed their problems, crisis averted, move along, nothing to see here. But the data tells a very different story. Now, I just spent the past few weeks inside the American Bar Association's own disclosure files, including bar passage numbers, probation notices, enrollment trends, financial filings, and the story I found is not the one being told publicly. There are 4 law schools in America right now that I don't think will exist 5 years from now, and the people running them already know it. And today I'm going to name them. I'm going to show you the data, and if you're applying to law school in the next 2 cycles, what I'm about to share might be the most important 15 minutes of your career. Now, quick thing before we get into it. I've been teaching the LSAT for 20 years now. I raised my own LSAT score from a 152 to a 175. I've helped thousands of applicants over the years, and I'm tired of watching smart people walk into law schools they never should have applied to, take on debt they're going to spend their whole lives paying down, and end up worse off than when they started. That is the reason I'm talking about this today. If you're an applicant, you deserve to know what's actually happening, and admissions certainly is not going to tell you, so I will. Now, here is what most applicants don't understand about how law schools die. They don't die overnight. They die slowly, then all at once. There's a pattern. Bar passage rates slip. The American Bar Association puts the school on notice. Applications drop. The school admits weaker students to fill seats. Bar passage falls further as a result. Faculty leave, the best students transfer out, and 2 or 3 years later, the lights go off. And that cycle used to take 5, 7, maybe 10 years, but going forward, it's going to take only 2 years, and here's why. July 1st, less than 3 months from today, the federal government kills the Grad Plus loan program. The program that for 20 years let law students borrow the entire cost of attendance from the government. The new rule is you can only borrow $50,000 a year, $200,000 lifetime cap. That is it. Now, here's the thing. More than half of ABA accredited law schools charge tuition above $50,000 a year. That's tuition alone before you've paid your rent or eaten a meal. Now, schools at the top can adjust easily. Their students have parents who can easily write checks. Their endowments are measured in the billions, so Harvard isn't worried and Yale isn't worried. But the schools in the bottom third, the ones charging $50,000, $55,000 a year for mediocre outcomes, the ones where 90% of the student body was funding through Grad Plus, the ones that are serving applicants without family money or scholarships, those law schools don't have a business model anymore. And the ones that are already in trouble with the ABA are going first. Which brings me to school number 1, the Inter-American University of Puerto Rico. If you pull up their 509 report, you're going to see that their first-time bar passage rate is 49%. 108 graduates took the bar last year. 54 passed, 54 failed. It's a coin flip. That is the worst first-time bar passage rate of any ABA-accredited law school. That is the worst by more than 10 points. So watch what happens next. 2020 graduates, 2-year bar passage rate, 62%. 2021, 65% bar passage rate. 2022, 69% bar passage rate, still out of compliance all 3 years. September, a couple months ago, the American Bar Association finally runs out of patience, places them on formal probation, orders the dean to appear before the council to show cause why this school should keep its accreditation at all. Then in January, a couple months ago, they squeak back into compliance just barely. Their probation is lifted by a thread. And now the school's marketing team is telling applicants the crisis is over, that you can apply with confidence. But what they're not telling you is that their median LSAT is a 144. That's the bottom 5 in the country. Their admitted students are scoring at the level law professors will tell you off the record is the cutoff for students who can pass a bar exam without intensive intervention. And their student body is almost entirely federally financed. And so when Grad Plus dies this summer, the parents covering a $20,000 annual gap don't exist for this applicant pool. And the next time bar passage slips even slightly, they are back on probation. And the ABA has already shown their patience is gone. That is the worst bar passage rate in America, just escaped probation by inches, lowest median LSAT in the country. Student body is dependent on a federal program that is about to disappear, and it's a jurisdiction where demand for new lawyers has been flat for a decade. I do not see a scenario where this school survives the next 5 years in its current form. And so if you are holding an admission letter from Inter-American, walk away, retake the LSAT, apply next cycle. A wasted year is a year, but a degree from a school that closes during your enrollment is a lifetime. Now, before we get to school number 2, I want you to understand something. The school I'm about to name has been on the ABA's hit list for 5 years straight. They lost their parent university in 2023. They run 2 campuses they can't afford. They just escaped losing their accreditation by 1 percentage point, and their tuition is right at the new federal loan cap. It is Cooley Law School. They are the case study. They are the poster child for everything that has gone wrong in legal education over the past 20 years. In 2020, the ABA found Cooley out of compliance, gave them 2 years to fix it. Following year, still not compliant, the ABA gave them 3 more years. But this past September, the ABA put Cooley on formal probation. Then in November, Cooley just barely made it back into compliance based on ultimate bar passage rates by 1.2%. But their first-time bar passage rate in 2024 is only 51.5%. That's 22.6% below the Michigan state average. Their 2-year bar passage rate for 2022 graduates is 57.47%, the lowest in America. If they make any dip in the next cycle, they're back on probation. But the bar numbers aren't even the real problem here. Look at this. They run 2 campuses, one in Lansing, Michigan, one in Tampa Bay, Florida. And most law schools cannot support even one campus profitably. Cooley has 2 of them. And in 2023, Western Michigan University killed its partnership with Cooley. And they're freestanding again. They have the same profile as Thomas Jefferson School right before the ABA pulled its accreditation in 2024. Their tuition is $50,590, right at the federal loan cap. Their median LSAT is 147, median GPA 3.09, down from 3.15 the year before. And when you see falling admissions metrics, that tells you we're in a death spiral. They're admitting weaker students to hit their enrollment targets, which means bar passage gets worse, which means probation comes back. If you stack it all up, they have the lowest 2-year bar passage in America, just escaped probation by 1 point, lost their university parent, running 2 campuses they can't afford. I've run the math a dozen different ways. I can't find a scenario where Cooley exists in its current form in 2030. Best case scenario, they close their Tampa Bay campus, they cut their faculty, shrink to Michigan only. Worst case, teach out by 2028. School number 3, Pontifical Catholic University of Puerto Rico, same ABA pattern as Inter-American, back in compliance in June 2025 after years of extensions, but wait till you see their median LSAT. It's a 137. That is their median. Half of their students have below that. They're the bottom 1 or 2 schools in the country. National median LSAT is 156 for admitted students. Pontifical Catholic is 19 points below that. The students walking into this school are roughly at the 10th percentile nationally. This is what the ABA calls standard 501 noncompliance. They're taking students who don't appear capable of completing law school and passing the bar. Now look at what happens to their students. 79 graduated in 2024. Only 19 of them got full-time long-term bar required jobs. That's 19 out of 79, only 24%. So 3 out of every 4 Pontifical Catholic graduates don't get a job that requires a law degree after spending 3 years of their life after borrowing 6 figures. Their bar passage rate in 2022 was 62%. The school says they're going to improve. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But it's not going to fix their employment math. And they have 2 law schools in Puerto Rico that are ABA accredited, Pontifical Catholic, Inter-American. Both of them have bar passage problems, employment problems, both competing for a shrinking applicant pool in a market where they have a declining population and demand for new lawyers has been flat for a decade. So the market there can probably support only 1 struggling law school, but cannot support 2. And when loan caps hit, even worse. Most likely scenario, the weaker school folds and the stronger one absorbs its students under a teach-out arrangement. Other scenario, both of them collapse and Puerto Rico has 0 ABA accredited law schools within 5 years. Either way, enrolling in Pontifical Catholic is a bad move, uniquely bad. I would not enroll here anytime soon until the consolidation question is answered. Now, the fourth school I want to talk about is not actually one specific school, it's more of a category. I kind of went back and forth on whether I should even name a fourth school. There were 3 or 4 different candidates I could have picked, but naming one specific school felt misleading because the truth is there are probably 6 to 10 different schools that would fit that same profile. I'd rather give you a general framework you can apply yourself than name only one school and let the others off the hook. Here's the profile you want to look out for. Is the law school freestanding? Meaning, do they have a parent university to absorb their losses or not? If enrollment drops and there's no bigger institution to hide the deficit inside, you're going to see the problem and the law school's in trouble. Second big thing you want to look for is the tuition above $50,000 a year. Is it above the federal loan cap that takes effect in July? Third thing you want to look for is their first-time bar passage rate below 70%. Is it significantly below their own state's bar average? Next, is their bar required employment under 65%, meaning more than a third of graduates don't get a legal job 10 months out of school. You also want to look at falling admissions metrics. Is their median LSAT or GPA dropping over the course of 3 years? That's a red flag. Are they located in a saturated state? For example, Florida has 11 different ABA accredited law schools. California has 19. Illinois has 9. If you're in a state with too many schools chasing the same applicants, the marginal school is going to die first. Now, if a school you're considering hits 4 out of those 6 factors, you're looking at a school that might be in real trouble. If it hits 5 or 6 of those factors, you should walk away. So you can research this yourself. Look up the 509 reports for any given law school that you're considering. Apply that framework yourself. Another few categories to pay attention to. Look at freestanding Catholic schools in saturated states. Look at regional law schools in states with declining populations. Look at schools that are specialty relying on a narrow applicant pool. Standalone law schools whose parent universities that have a shaky financial profile. You're going to know them when you see the data. So first thing, pull up the 509 report. Every ABA accredited law school is required to publish one. You can find them at abarequireddisclosures.org. You can download the PDF, look at the numbers, the ultimate bar passage rate, first year enrollment trend over 3 years, median LSAT and GPA over 3 years, and also search the ABA public notices. Go on the American Bar Association website, find this section of legal education, look at the public notices page. Any sanction, probation, or censure the last 5 years is a red flag, and schools aren't going to advertise this. You got to look yourself. Then run the cost to outcomes math. Look at 3 years of tuition plus 75 grand for living expenses. That is your investment. Look up the school's bar required employment rate and their median private sector starting salary and multiply that salary by 3. If your investment is more than 3 times your expected starting salary, the math is not good. If it's more than 4x, the math is really bad. Don't enroll, retake the LSAT, apply somewhere else. Those filters will catch almost every school that is in structural trouble. But bigger picture, let's zoom out for a second. Legal education has been in trouble for quite a while now. Too many law schools, tuition's too high, not enough accountability. And there were a couple of factors that held it up. The first was the Grad Plus loans. The second was the ABA extending non-compliant schools year after year. Those props are gone. The ABA is cracking down, and the federal government is taking away the loan caps, the loan machine that kept the marginal schools alive. Top of the market, of course, is fine. The T14, including Yale and Harvard and Stanford, Columbia, they're going to be fine, but the bottom of the market is going to get crushed. My prediction is that between 2027 and 2030, at least 5 to 8 ABA accredited law schools will announce closures, teach out plans, or accreditation withdrawal. Maybe more. The schools I named today are my top bets for going first, but the actual list is much longer than that. And I've been doing this for 20 years, coaching students, watching the same mistakes get made over and over. If you're applying this cycle, deposit deadlines are coming up. Some are this month, some are in June. That means you've got a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, to figure out whether your top choice is one of the schools in serious trouble. If you are considering retaking the LSAT to get better offers, better scholarship money, maybe reapply next cycle, I'm happy to help you out. You can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me. Zero obligation, zero cost. It's unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below this video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG. That is an open offer for anybody watching this now or later. I'm also offering a free easy LSAT cheat sheet to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep. The link to get that cheat sheet is unpluggedprep.com/cheat sheet. Contains all the strategies on both logical reasoning and reading comp I wish I had back when I was studying. A quick reference for everything you need for LSAT and law school admissions. Link is below the video. Happy to help with that as well. I'm happy to take any and all questions on anything LSAT and law school admissions. Just drop your questions in the chat. I will get to as many of those as I can. I see Mikhail's asking, I've got a sophomore rising junior. When should he take the LSAT and start studying? Whenever he's ready. I mean, the LSAT is good for 5 years. Your LSAT score is good for 5 years. You could take it as a sophomore, take it as a junior, and then apply as soon as applications open in the fall of senior year if you want to go straight from undergrad into law school. I always recommend taking the LSAT when you're ready, when you're scoring at or above your LSAT goal score, and you have the time to study for it. But no rush, the LSAT's not going anywhere. Could always take it as a junior or even a fall semester senior year, but I like the idea of applying early. When you apply early, take the LSAT early, you've got more of a runway to achieve a top score. But feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk through the particulars. When you've got a longer time frame, you have more time to build a strong foundation before jumping into practice tests. Marley asks about tutoring. So we do offer custom tutoring programs. We look at your current starting point, your goal LSAT score, and your time frame. So we personalize every program to the individual student. It's not a one-size-fits-all. If you want to talk through what your LSAT study program could look like with personalized one-on-one LSAT tutoring, you can book a free tutoring lesson with me and we could talk through the particulars, but it's not a one-size-fits-all. We always personalize the program to the student given your current starting point, your goal score, and your time frame. In other words, a student taking the LSAT in June, for example, where we've only got 5 weeks or so, is going to need a more intensive boot camp style approach than a student taking the LSAT in, say, August or September, where you've got 3-4 months, where you could take more of a slow and steady approach. So every student has unique needs given the schools they're targeting and their time frame, of course. So book the tutoring lesson with me and we can talk through the particulars. Josh is asking, would a 3.3 or 3.4 GPA with a 170 LSAT be good? Well, when we say good, what does good mean, right? Like any given metric, your LSAT or your GPA, the numbers are good relative to the goal that you're trying to achieve. So what law school do you want to go to? And then how do your numbers stack up against their medians? For a top 14 law school, those numbers are low. For getting a full ride at a top 30 law school, those numbers are low. But for simply getting into a top 50 law school, those numbers are not bad. I mean, the GPA is a little low, of course, but you can offset a relatively lower GPA with a relatively higher LSAT score. In other words, you'll be a so-called splitter applicant with a low LSAT, a low GPA, high LSAT, but that's totally fine. I mean, law schools love splitters, and they weigh your LSAT score more heavily than your undergraduate GPA. So you can do a lot to offset the GPA with the higher LSAT. Of course, you're probably not going to raise your GPA much, if at all. For most students, the GPA is pretty fixed at this point in time if you're late in college or already graduated, but you've got plenty of time and room to improve your LSAT score. I mean, you could retake the LSAT in June or August and get another couple points. I mean, you could raise that 170 to a 174, 175. You're going to have radically different and better law school admissions outcomes. Uzuro is asking, do you think if I fail my AP English exam, I can't be a lawyer? No, not really. I don't really see what one has to do with the others. I mean, if you're taking AP classes, are you still in high school? I mean, you've got plenty of time, and your AP exam result does not factor into your GPA. So I don't see why it matters. I mean, law schools are looking at your undergraduate GPA. the grades that go into the credits that comprise your bachelor's, and they're looking at your LSAT score, but they're not looking at your high school exams. And if you're still taking AP exams, if you're still in high school, then you don't need to be thinking about LSAT yet. I would say just finish up high school strong, focus on your college grades, maintaining a high GPA, pursue, explore whether law school is really what you want to do, but the LSAT's not going anywhere. Don't stress. Casey's asking, thoughts on Northeastern and doing my first year in NYC, any advice? So if you're still in college, if you're going to be a freshman, same thing, just focus on maintaining a good GPA in undergrad. When you're a freshman, when you're a sophomore, the LSAT is kind of premature. You don't need to be doing anything just with a law school admissions lens right now, other than keeping your GPA up and doing well in college. And then talking to practicing lawyers, maybe interning somewhere and getting a general sense of whether law school is really what you want to do. But circle back in a year or two, we could talk LSAT. But for now, just maintaining a high GPA, which will help you no matter what you want to do going forward. No Name is saying, I got a 173. Will I get any scholarships? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, what's your undergraduate GPA? That's a missing piece of the puzzle here, right? I mean, your law school admissions chances and your scholarship awards are based on the strength of your numbers relative to the medians of the law schools to which you're applying. And so if we look at your LSAT score, a 173 is strong. It's above most law school medians. But how does your GPA stack up? Is your GPA above the medians or below the medians? Because that'll play a role as well. And then what law schools are we looking at? It's relative to the law schools that you're considering. Mekdi says 3.5 GPA and 171 LSAT, looking at schools focused on IP law and contract law. Okay, nice. Okay, so like a previous commenter, LSAT's really strong, GPA is a bit lower. You could retake the LSAT, but if you're done, I mean, those stats will get you into some decent schools, perhaps. You'll get more scholarship money with a higher LSAT, given the GPA, though. But there are plenty of law schools that specialize in IP law, contract law. That seems pretty broad to me. I feel like any law school would help with contract law. It's pretty fundamental. But yeah, do some exploration in terms of what law schools you would get into and get good scholarship money at, and then see where they specialize. Dodo saying, if I have a 3.4 GPA from UChicago, what LSAT score would I need for top 20? So I see a lot of folks just kind of plugging in their stats and basically asking for chances. You can look this up yourself. Go to lsd.law and you could see calculations of how you would stack up with the given LSAT score and GPA at every single law school in the country. A 3.4 GPA is relatively low, unfortunately, and UChicago, of course, is a top university, but law schools don't really care about the prestige of the undergrad. They're not evaluated based on that metric. They care about your LSAT and GPA regardless of where you went to undergrad. And so if your GPA is low, you want to balance it with a higher LSAT. If you want to go to a top 20 law school, I'd want you to ideally have a 175 or higher on the LSAT to compensate for the lower GPA. Samantha's asking, I'm in my third year of undergrad, taking the LSAT in September. My GPA is a 3.9. Is studying for the LSAT now too late? No, it's not too late at all. You've got 4 months or so till the September LSAT. Your GPA is really strong. Let's match that with a killer LSAT. Let's get you a 175 or higher. And 175 starting now is not too late to get the 175 with 4 months. The question is, what are you doing this summer? How busy are you? Can you devote the summer to your LSAT prep and keep your schedule pretty light otherwise? In other words, don't take on some intensive full-time internship, because law schools will value a higher LSAT score much more heavily than they'll value an internship on your resume. So give it your all this summer focusing on the LSAT. Then you could get into, you'd have a decent, I'll say this, you'd have a pretty good shot at any law school in the country with a 3.9 GPA and a 175 plus LSAT. And if you want to talk through a study plan to get you that 175, I'm happy to help you out. I'm offering free LSAT tutoring for anybody watching this now or later. The link to book the free tutoring with me is unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG as well. I'm also offering a free easy LSAT cheat sheet to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep, covering in-depth strategies on both logical reasoning and reading comprehension. It's a free download below the video on YouTube, in the description on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG as well. In-depth strategies for everything logical reasoning and reading comprehension. Quick reference you could use at any point over the course of your LSAT prep. So feel free to book the free call with me if you haven't already. Again, the link is in my bio. A comment on UChicago, Dodo saying, but UChicago has known grade deflation. Yeah, I mean, sure, but here's the thing. Even if a law school knows that a given university practices grade deflation, you still got to look at it from their perspective in terms of incentives. Law schools are evaluated based on the LSAT score and undergraduate GPA of their students. Whether a given undergrad has grade deflation or not is not factored into the calculations because the American Bar Association is not making distinctions based on grade deflation at a given university, and US News is also not making distinctions based on that. And so ultimately the question becomes, so what? So what if UChicago has known grade deflation? No one ever said the process was fair. There are, thousands of universities and colleges across North America. The American Bar Association and US News are not doing in-depth research on every single university saying this major or this college has or does not have grade deflation or does not have grade inflation. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. Honestly, I think grade inflation is so broken and so out of control that law schools should just stop looking at GPAs altogether. That's obviously problematic as a solution, but the current situation is also pretty broken as well. And in contrast, LSAT scores are relatively more fair, I would argue, because they don't discriminate based on major or university. They're less subject to varying inflation. There is also the problem of LSAT score inflation and accommodations, which we don't need to get into right now. But the fact that a student could major in engineering and tank their GPA, or major in sociology and get an easy 4.0, I don't think that's right either. So the LSAT score is imperfect, but I think the GPA is even worse. Basically, I don't think there's any metric or way of conducting law school admissions that cannot be gamed, but maybe the LSAT is less gameable than GPA. You could feel free to disagree. Scanning through for other questions here. Mekti says, I'm planning to retake the LSAT. My GPA is what's holding me back. I'm looking at schools in DC and New York City. Okay, cool. So if your GPA is holding you back, it is what it is, right? If you've already earned your bachelor's, it's a pretty done deal. But you can balance it out with a higher LSAT score. And there are an abundance of law schools in DC and New York, some elite T14 level schools, some lower ranked schools where you could get a full ride. Either way, whichever kind of school you want to go to, the more prestigious high ranked or the lower ranked where you can get a full ride, the path forward is the same. Get a higher LSAT score. It'll get you more scholarship money. It'll get you into better law schools. And speaking now at the end of April, you can take the LSAT in August or September and apply at the very beginning of the cycle when applications open. And when you apply earlier rather than later, it's easier to get in. And there's also more scholarship money available. I see you mentioned you're a junior right now, so you could take the LSAT late summer and apply the second the applications open in the fall of your senior year, and then go straight from undergrad into law school. Sultan's asking, I'm still an undergrad, but I'm trying to build my resume with internships. Is that really helpful? No, I wouldn't say it's really helpful. It's marginally helpful. It's better to have a more full resume than an empty resume. Better to have internships than not have internships. But the thing is that everyone's got limited time. And any time you spend on these internships is time that you're not spending raising your LSAT score, raising your GPA. And if you're still an undergrad, you still want to be focusing on your GPA, maintaining it, raising it, showing an upward trend if you can. And have you taken the LSAT? I'd say that almost 9 times out of 10 when someone's asking me about internships, they're typically younger, typically still in school, because if you're working full time, you're not also doing internships typically. But the folks who are still in school, still in undergrad, talking about internships, their GPA is not a 4.0 and they haven't yet taken the LSAT. And so I'm like, time is limited. Why not put a pause on the internships, earn that 4.0, do your readings for class, go to office hours, raise your hand in class, be that guy or that girl who participates, so that the professor is not just getting crickets when they ask about questions. You'll stand out, you'll get better grades, and then spend your free time on the LSAT. Earn that 175, earn that 180. If you haven't done that and your LSAT score is subpar, your GPA is not what it could be, why are we talking about internships? And then if you're like, well, I could do it over the summer, I'm like, yeah, but you could also study for the LSAT over the summer. Law schools don't really care that much about internships. Law school admissions is not like undergrad admissions where extracurriculars and internships matter. They're nice to have, sure, but don't pursue an internship at the expense of your numbers. Law school admissions is much more numbers driven than undergrad admissions because of the American Bar Association and because of the US News rankings. Daniel's asking, are there schools that look at only the last 2 years of undergrad? We all wish, right? No, unfortunately, law schools are looking at all of undergrad. They're looking at your LSAC calculated GPA. So all of the credits that go into earning your first bachelor's degree, that is what they consider. They're not looking at master's degree, but they're also not ignoring freshman and sophomore year. And a lot of folks had pretty bad grades freshman, sophomore year, either because you goofed off or had difficulty adjusting to college or had a personal matter, what have you. If you can, it's nice to show an upward trend in your grades, but at the same time, the grades are what they are. Just get a higher LSAT score to offset the lower GPA. I see Anai is asking, 168 LSAT, 392 GPA from Harvard, currently on a gap year. Thoughts on how to improve chances? Well, your GPA is fantastic. That's going to help a lot. Harvard undergrad name is always nice to see, but the LSAT score is low. You've got a gap year, so raise your LSAT score. And by the way, for those in the comments who are like, 168 is not low. I'm like, well, if you got a 392 GPA, a 168 LSAT is relative to the strength of that GPA is what I mean here. And for someone who went to Harvard undergrad, they probably want to go to a pretty good law school as well, I'm guessing. And so if you want to go to a top 14 law school, which I'm guessing you might want to, just given the prestige of your undergrad, let's match that 392 GPA with a 175 plus LSAT. Take the free time that you have during your gap year to study for the LSAT and retake it. There's no reason that you should be applying with such a low LSAT score. And if you want to talk through what that LSAT retake plan could look like, I'd invite you to reach out to me. You can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me. We can talk through the particulars, but it sounds to me like something might have gone wrong with your LSAT or wrong with your LSAT prep that led to a relatively lower LSAT score than you could have achieved. A 392 GPA is awesome. That's on par with the medians for the top 14 law schools. Let's match that with a killer LSAT. Girl Out says, got a 299 undergrad GPA, 39 GPA in grad school. So I'll stop right there. The grad school GPA doesn't matter. Law schools do not factor your graduate school or master's GPA into their calculations. It's effectively a soft factor. It's not calculated or input into the formulas. Only the undergrad GPA matters for law school admissions. So you have a 299 undergraduate GPA, which is, frankly speaking, a bit low. We got to get you a higher LSAT score. Now, law school is possible for you. You can get in somewhere, but you're going to want a really high LSAT to offset a fairly low GPA. And then, of course, it depends where you ultimately want to go to law school, but you're going to want a higher LSAT to offset the lower GPA, and don't think you can rest easy because of the grad school GPA, because it doesn't count, unfortunately. Not saying it's fair, but that's what it is. Hey, Leonardo, welcome. Thanks for joining. Leonardo's a student in the program. Ali's asking, which law schools are splitter friendly? How can I tell which school is splitter friendly? So I'd say that frankly, most law schools are splitter friendly and that they weigh LSAT scores more heavily than undergraduate GPAs. But if you want to get into the particulars, go on lsd.law, where students input their admissions results based on LSAT and GPA. It's user-generated content, so take it with a grain of salt. But in aggregate, most people are being honest, I would think. And so go on that site to put in your chances at various schools. Just scanning through for other questions here in the comments. Feel free to keep them coming. Anything at all. LSAT and law school admissions, happy to take your questions here. Brandon's asking, I'm about to transfer to a 4-year college. When should I start studying for the LSAT? So are you going to be in entering third year like a junior? If so, you could start now. I mean, your LSAT score is good for 5 years. I think studying for the LSAT when you're a freshman or sophomore might be premature, but as a junior or starting to transition from sophomore to junior year, that's totally fine. Your LSAT score is good for 5 years, and allowing 6 months or more to achieve a top LSAT score is not a bad idea. I think a year plus might be overkill, but to take it in the next 6 months or so, I think starting now is fine. Really study for it whenever you have the time to study for it. But also, more importantly, in the short term, make sure that you can maintain a high undergraduate GPA because that matters a lot as well. Max says, hi from Malaysia. Hi, Max, welcome. And by the way, folks, for those of you just joining, if you're not aware, I do these lives every single weekday, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific, here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you're watching this. The only way this grows is through word of mouth. I don't do any advertising for these lives, and the algorithm doesn't really boost them because they can't run ads during them. So I do appreciate your support, spreading the word, sharing this to your socials on TikTok, sharing it on Instagram or Facebook groups, Discords, group chats. The more this grows, the more I will expand this over time. And I normally do this at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific, but tomorrow morning, I'm actually doing it at 8:45 a.m. Eastern time because of the April LSAT score release. Scores will come out at 9 a.m., and so I want to be online early to support everybody getting their April LSAT scores back. So change of schedule for tomorrow specifically. Rather than the usual time of 2 p.m. Eastern, I'll be on bright and early, 8:45 a.m. Eastern time, 7:45 a.m. Central time, 5:45 a.m. Pacific time. It's not my choosing. It's just when LSAC chooses to release LSAT scores. And so I want to be around live to support everybody who took the April LSAT, getting their scores back tomorrow morning. Then back to Thursday, back to the regular schedule. Xavier is asking, does a good LSAT score hold more weight than an ACT? So it holds all the weight, and the ACT holds none of the weight. In other words, just like law schools don't care what you got on the SAT, they don't care what you got on the ACT. They're not asking about a college admissions exam because they're asking about law school admissions. And so the LSAT score is the number that you want to focus on. There probably is some correlation between ACT scores and LSAT scores because people who do well on one exam do well on other exams too. There's just something about doing well on multiple choice exams, I guess, but law schools and even law firms, for some reason, as well, care about your LSAT score, so that's the number you want to focus on. Carpenter says, I'm on my last shot to take the LSAT. I just can't get it. I don't want to give up on my dream. Awesome. No, I appreciate the persistence here. I mean, you could take the LSAT 5 times in 5 years, and so if you've taken it 4 times already within the past couple of years, this might be your last shot for a while. But the question is, what can you do differently next time around to make it your final shot and make it help yourself hit your goal on this last one? What can you do differently on this next take that you haven't done up to this point? Have you been studying out of prep books or using free resources only? Have you taken a prep course? Have you gotten coaching? If there is a kind of support that you could take advantage of that you have not yet taken advantage of, that might be the missing piece of the puzzle. And so if you want to talk through what you've done in the past, what you could do differently going forward, I'm happy to meet with you personally and help you get to the root cause of what's holding you back. I'm happy to offer a free LSAT tutoring lesson for everybody watching this now or later. The link to book that free tutoring with me is unpluggedprep.com/start. Link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG. That's an open offer for everybody watching this now or later, by the way. Rachel says, firms care where you graduate from and law review. That's a lie. I guess she's referring to me referencing law firms asking about your LSAT score. I mean, I didn't believe it either at first, Rachel, but the truth is that law firms, in some cases, are actually asking about what you got on the LSAT. I don't think they should be asking that, but the truth is they are asking that in many cases. Not every single law firm, of course, but a lot of them are. I think maybe they just want an objective metric they can look at that rank orders applicants along a spectrum, because bar passage is kind of like a pass-fail, yes-no sort of thing, and they want a more subtle gradation. But I don't think that's a really good use of the LSAT, because the LSAT is not meant to indicate whether you should get hired or your employability. The LSAT is considered a valid and reliable admission test because it is strongly correlated with first-year law school grades and bar passage rates. That is it. It is not meant to indicate whether you will be a successful attorney, which involves very different skills, of course. I think first and foremost, people skills, negotiation skills, ability to generate business. I think that is a lot more, those are much more important factors that firms should consider when hiring somebody, rather than just how they could do on a multiple choice exam. But they are asking in many cases, and don't believe me. I mean, you can ask current practicing lawyers themselves about this, and they'll repeat it. Okay, now we're just getting into anecdotes. I mean, let's cast a wider net and look beyond one person's experience. I would say talk to several different people if you can and get a more fuller picture. But ultimately, I don't think it matters that much. This is kind of a he said, she said thing here. Ultimately, if you are pre-law, there is reason for you to focus on getting a high LSAT score beyond employability, simply because a better LSAT score will get you into better law schools. It'll also get you more scholarship money. And your GPA is probably pretty fixed at this point in time. Not a whole lot you can do to raise your GPA if you're a junior or a senior in college, or if you've already graduated. But your LSAT score is 1 day, 2.5 hours, and weighs more heavily than all of your undergrad combined. And so if you want to improve your odds of admission, improve your scholarship offers, the number one thing you could do is get a higher LSAT score to get more scholarship money, get into better law schools. And if you want to get your LSAT score up, I've put together a free easy LSAT cheat sheet to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep. The link to get that cheat sheet is unpluggedprep.com/cheat sheet. The link is below the video on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG as well. Free download covering everything logical reasoning and reading comprehension. Totally free download, no obligation. So you can grab a copy if you haven't already. I'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning, 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Unique schedule tomorrow, specifically because of the April LSAT score release. I'll be on for a couple hours to help out retakers or anybody taking the LSAT in June or August or beyond. And so if you want to talk through what your prep could look like, you can book that free LSAT tutoring with me. You can get the cheat sheet, and I'll see you all tomorrow morning. In the meantime, all the best. Take care. Thanks for joining.